McClane, are you there?
I'm here, jerk off. But soon I'll be there. And then you'll be dead. And everything you're trying to do will be right there with you.
I love your enthusiasm, Ms. McClane, but soon you will see the gift I'm giving to our country. Haven't you ever wondered what life would be like with affordable health care?
Look, pal, I don't know what that means, but this is America, okay? You'll never get away with it.
But I already have. I currently have control of every hospital in this nation. And I'm giving everyone, even you, the care they need for free.
Really?
Yeah.
So, like anyone?
Yeah.
Could I come by? Is that... Because, I mean, I jumped out of a moving car, I shot myself, to be quite frank, and, yeah, I drove into an elevator shaft, so that's all okay? I'm covered?
Yeah, it's free.
Awesome.
Welcome to FilmCrunch. I'm Veronica Santiago.
And I'm Neil Estep, and for this episode, we've got 60 Seconds with Veronica Santiago. 3, 2, 1.
For this episode, I'm reviewing Ocean's 13, starring George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and Matt Damon. It's once again directed by Steven Soderbergh, so look out for the special camera tricks. In this movie, the gang reunites when Elliot Gould suffers a heart attack brought on by nemesis Al Pacino. Pacino has swindled Gould out of his casino share, so the gang reunites to sabotage Pacino's career. Soderbergh jokes that this is the movie that they should have made last time, but they actually needed a 12 because otherwise you'd realize that 13 is basically a rehash of 11. They basically reused the same trick that they did in the first movie to do this particular heist. Instead, this time they actually recruited Andy Garcia's help instead of working against him. If you really want to see the boys in action again, just lower your expectations and don't expect any strong female characters like Julia or Catherine. Ellen Barkin is great as a cougar, but she checks her strong female persona at the door and is basically wasted in this movie. I did think this movie had its fun parts, but while the second movie was completely regrettable, this movie was simply forgettable.
Oh my god, like 57.5 seconds.
And I had to cut out like 2 sentences.
Wow. Excellent job. My gosh. We are reviewing Live Free or Die Hard, directed by Len Wiseman and starring, of course, Bruce Willis, Justin Long, and Timothy Olyphant. Well, John McClane is back, and it's been 12 years since Die Hard 3 was made. And this time, John McClane's pretty much still in the same position. He's a detective, but still is just working the streets. Hasn't ever really been fully recognized for his contribution to society and his heroism. But when he's called to pick up a young hacker who may have played a part in the recent hacking of the NSA, he is thrust into what is called a fire sale, which is basically the systematic destabilization and then eventual destruction, irreparable destruction, of the government using computers and technology. Oh, and it's rated PG-13, by the way, which is the first Die Hard to be not to be rated R. Huh. Yes, Veronica.
I don't think that even occurred to me.
It's very true. So, what did you think, Veronica?
Well, as you know, when I first saw this trailer months ago, I think I audibly laughed in the theater because the trailer just made the movie look horrible. Horrible. And I don't know if it was the shot of the car hurling in the air and narrowly missing them, you know, while they're in between 2 cars,
right,
or the not so funny scenes with Kevin Smith and what that had to do with the movie or the series overall. So going into this movie, I was actually quite worried. I was very worried because I wasn't sure if it was just the trailer that was horrible or if it was the movie altogether. And to answer that question, the first part is, yes, the trailer is horrible. As for the movie is only half as bad as the trailer. And I must say though, when I first started the movie, I was actually quite impressed. I thought it was going to come out much better than I thought it was because it actually had a very sexy open to the movie. I think it was slightly different than the other ones, and like the title sequence and everything just looked great. And as it went along, I thought this was going to be a very good movie. And I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it and had a good time, but as the movie progressed, that car scene, the one with the car, you know, hurling in the air, that was just the beginning of all the ridiculous scenes yet to come, and it just got progressively more ridiculous as time went on.
Right.
And I'm just going to leave it at that for the moment.
Right. Well, you know, Len Wiseman directed Underworld and is directing directed Underworld 2 also. So, you know, he's very, very good at creating atmosphere and filming action, directing action well. And I think for the most part he had that down. But the thing that's so sad about this movie is, well, I mean, really that's sad about the series, is that Die Hard 1 was so unique. I mean, it really just had this niche about it that set itself apart from other thrillers. And then progressively it got more and more sort of about just the normal thriller. Mm-hmm. But that being said, because the character of John McClane is so fleshed out and is so, you know, he's so relatable and he's so vulnerable, mm-hmm. that you still go back pretty much just to watch him. I mean, if you took John McClane out of this movie and you put in another person, it would just be another blasé thriller, mm-hmm. honestly, to me. And I think the filmmakers should really take note at how self-aware these movies are, because that is really the key, I find, to making these movies tolerable. You know, make it just like everything else, you know, just like any other modern thriller. But, I mean, you know, in every subsequent film, it seems like Bruce Willis is just so self-aware of how ridiculous it is that this is happening to him again. You know what I mean? Like, and I just love that. I mean, everything short of turning to the audience and saying, like, "Come on, really?" Yeah. You know, I mean, and that is just what's really, really cool about the whole series. But I
think that was what the problem of this movie was, because John McClane, to me, especially in the first movie, he was kind of, in a way, kind of like a MacGyver character. I mean, he was thrown in this situation reluctantly, and, I mean, whether you can actually say these situations were plausible, what he had to do, he basically had to improvise to kill the bad guys in the first movie, and he worked with what he had. Mm-hmm. But as the series progressed, and particularly this movie, come on, the situations are so ridiculous. I mean, I'm not going to elaborate that much, but like the elevator shaft scene, come on. Come on.
Oh, that was...
And how did he know the car was even going to make it up there to begin with?
No, I understand that, but that's not the scene. That is not the scene that was like, come on.
But I actually said come on in the theater, in particular freeway scene.
That's the scene I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the scene. And I actually said at that point, I said, oh, come on. I mean, and that was completely unnecessary. Yeah. I mean, half of these scenes could have been taken out, and they should have made it more grounded, and, you know, because I think people probably could relate to the whole, you know, the fact that he's not very well adept at computers, right. You know, and so he's kind of thrown into this situation and kind of figuring it out as he goes along. And I think maybe if they kept it more realistic and more grounded like that, you know, I don't know, I think it could have been better. But it just really, at that point, it was just pure for action's sake.
And well, there's something interesting too. I was reading an article, I don't know, maybe about 6 months ago, and it was this article about how it was the most popular search result for movies that were coming out this year, Die Hard. Mm-hmm. And everybody was buzzing about this. Every blog, every, you know, all comments, just everything on the web was a buzz.
Was a comment like, why is he making another one?
Well, maybe some, but I mean, and then I read this this little quote from a producer, and the producer said, well, you know, what with Pirates coming out and other various, you know, sequels, Shrek, people are looking for something that's not so CG and false looking. And I just, watching the movie, I thought, this is full of CG.
Oh, yeah.
This is, like, so much stuff looked fake or just not real enough to really make me scared or really make me feel intense and feel that, you know?
Did you notice that the driving scenes looked really fake?
I didn't really notice the driving scenes.
Yeah, no, the driving scenes. That
you mean out the window?
Yeah, just like, you know, like they're driving down the country road and they have the, you know, that looked fake. And that was really sad. I think they spent so much time on the action scenes they forgot to notice the little things.
Okay.
And in the whole sidekick thing, I actually think that Justin Long, right, he did much better than I thought he would, because, again, the trailer made it look really bad. But having said that, the whole time warp jokes really were quite lame. Yeah. Like, you know, like, what band are you listening to on the radio? You know, and that was really stupid.
That's true. And that's for people who I think really you know, were adults when the first Die Hard came out and have gone through the series and probably aren't as technologically advanced and into this culture. Yeah. So for them, you know, I totally understand that. Yeah. But you're right, the chemistry and the chemistry between John McClane and Samuel L. Jackson's character in Die Hard with a Vengeance also was very, very good. And John McClane's character really gloms on and has a lot to feed off of when he has another person. And it's kind of sad, but it also just gives so much to the movie. I thought the chemistry between the two of them was phenomenal, and because of that, I almost felt like this was more comedy than action, simply because the CG annoyed me so much. But the relationship between Justin Long and Bruce Willis was just phenomenal. I just really loved that. Yeah.
Well, again, overall, I think it was an entertaining film, and it was much better than I thought it was going to be, if you were anyway in the same camp that I was. So I would recommend it. It's a nice diversion for,
Yeah.
the summer.
Did you notice the horrible editing though for the voice dubbing?
No.
Like every time it would cut to another angle of someone talking, and it would be obvious that they had started saying one thing, and then they finished saying another thing that their mouth, I don't know, hard to explain, I guess, but very, very apparent. I'm not sure exactly why they did that. Like, everybody should have had big beards so you couldn't notice. I don't know. That's the only thing that could have solved it. I don't know. But anyway.
Out of 5 reels, what would you give it?
I am going to give it 3.5.
Okay.
Purely because, maybe just because I've recently watched all the Die Hards, and I'm so hopped up on the series right now, and the chemistry and the comedy, really. I mean, just for the summer, this is the sequel to see, if you're going to see one this summer. I mean, honestly. Really, just well done, despite its flaws. 3.5.
And I'm going to give it 3 reels. 3 is good. I think 3 is a decent rating. And Timothy Olyphant, I think he did a fine job. He held his own, but I can never stop comparing him to Alan Rickman in the first one. Alan Rickman's amazing. So there you go. So 3 reels.
Yeah, 3 reels. 3.5. 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah. I will be reviewing individually the theatrical release of SiCKO. SiCKO, of course, is the next in line for Michael Moore. Michael Moore wrote, directed, and produced the film. And once again, it turns its eye on a controversial subject. Moore follows the stories of a few people here in the United States to begin with, not focusing so much on people who do not have health care, which is a pretty obvious statistic. It's about 50 million people in the United States who do not have health care, or who do not have insurance, I'm sorry. But it does follow people who do have insurance, who have had nightmares with their insurance companies and who have been unable to actually receive care because of that. And then, of course, it progresses into comparing the United States to other countries such as Canada, France, and Cuba, and it's rated PG-13. Excellent. So, anyway, I'm a big fan of Michael Moore. Just to begin everything by saying, I understand that a lot of the time he skews his films, and he does have a bias. I accept that. Most of the time, we share the bias, so it's okay with me, but I understand the conservatives or anyone else who may be opposed to the way he makes a film. But having said that, he also, not only is he a documentary filmmaker, but he also is someone who wants to invoke an emotional response in people, and I think that, skewing things slightly is how he goes about doing that. This film is very, very, very powerful. It's by far the most powerful thing I've ever seen, the most powerful documentary, I should say, and the most powerful thing I've seen from Michael Moore. I think it's that way because it hits so close to everyone's home. You know what I mean? Obviously, Fahrenheit affects, the events that took place in Fahrenheit affect the entire nation. Columbine affects the entire nation, but this is really a subject that can affect
because everyone will have to deal with healthcare,
right? Eventually, or has, or will. So, very, very powerful. In fact, I think that, well, for me anyway, nonfiction will always invoke a deeper resonance with me over fiction, and this is just a prime example. You set me in front of a movie like this, and I'm done. I think probably for about 70% of the film, I had tears in my eyes, and then for about another 10%, I was just crying, just really bawling, just that powerful, really, really awesome. However, there were some really silly parts that I thought weren't necessary, like the part that we've all seen in the preview where Moore loads that boat up with a bunch of people, most notably the 9/11 volunteer firefighters and rescue workers who can't get health care in the United States now. He loads them all up, and they try to cross the border to Cuba, and he takes out his megaphone and shouts out to the guards at Guantanamo Bay, like, hey, can we get some health care? Like, that's just really silly. That's not even trying. That's just trying to, stir up controversy. So there are some things that I thought didn't really need to be in the movie. And that's okay, really. That really is okay. But, once again, how I said it was just a little skewed, a little biased. He focuses a lot on people who have had a really hard time with their insurance companies here in the United States. But he doesn't really focus on anyone who has had even slightly a good experience with the insurance companies. Not even a little bit. And that's sort of a good. I mean, he's not objective, but I think objective journalism should, lend itself to the occasional person who's had a decent experience, but still has something bad to say about the system, or something like that. And then, of course, comparing other countries to our country is also kind of a weak argument because all countries have a different way of doing things. But even though he pushes, you can tell that he's an advocate for socializing the healthcare system in the United States. Now, I'm not totally opposed to socializing the healthcare in the United States. I've talked to a lot of people who do not want the government in their healthcare system, and I agree maybe we don't need them totally in our healthcare system. But I think the point of this movie is to get people talking. And I think it seemed like there was a dialogue open at one time, especially when Hillary Clinton was big on making universal health care in the United States. And I feel like it's going to reopen the dialogue to where we can possibly find a middle ground. Canada's system isn't perfect. It's true. A lot of people wait a long time for major healthcare procedures. Even Cuba's system's probably not perfect. France's system is not perfect. Of course, Michael Moore doesn't really display the parts of that system that aren't perfect, just the parts that are great. But of course...
But that's not the point.
That's not the point. And I think that easily we could find a middle ground here in the United States and work toward an agreement that everyone would be happy with. So, in general, the point of the film was reached. I mean, for me, I really liked it. It did everything that I wanted it to do, and it really, really got me thinking and hoping for a brighter future as far as the nation.
But one point you brought up is whether or not they needed to show the other countries. I would think, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I would think that people need that visual example, because it's one thing if you sat down and told them what insurance, the healthcare industry could be like. But unless they actually see it happening for other people, they may think that this is a fantasy,
right,
that this could never happen.
No, and I totally agree with what you're saying. And for the film, it was that worked very well. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that in general, for an argument, to compare one system to another isn't the strongest of arguments.
But being as large of a country as we are, and that this can happen in smaller countries, right? I think that's the example that also is being made by that.
Absolutely.
Too. That why can't we, as this powerful nation, not do the same thing as somebody else?
That's very true. No, you're very right about that.
And one thing, I know that he made a point of not getting the side of the healthcare industry in the movie. He specifically did not want to. Do you think that was lacking at all? Do you wish that you had gotten the commentary from them?
Well, he does show, he shows some, I think there was some testimony, and that was enough for me. There was a couple different times where head honchos in the health insurance industry were, testifying before
but specifically
a committee.
Answering his questions?
No, not answering his questions. But I think that, maybe it would have been another side, like I said. The film's biased, skewed. Maybe that would have added another element, an element that could be explored, that could be researched by people like you and me to find out what, really is going on in the healthcare system. But for me, watching the movie, it was enough to see testimony. And people who worked within the industry. There's a guy who was responsible for, seeking out people who had made a mistake on like an application for insurance. And seeking out those people and finding just the most minute, small little area where they didn't check a box or something and saying, no, you're denied. I mean, there were very, very, there were people from the industry who, even there was this man who was a conservative, or I think it was him, there was a conservative, though, who was saying, I'm totally an advocate, and again, we're just taking their word for it. But just for me, how the film was structured, and just the people that were interviewed, the stories that were told, were very, very powerful. And like I said, it only made me hope for the future and a better system. So, yeah.
So out of 5 reels?
Out of 5, I'm giving it 4.5.
4.5. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic documentary. I think more's best, easily.
We are reviewing the DVD release of Black Snake Moan, starring Samuel L. Jackson, Christina Ricci, and Justin Timberlake. The movie was directed and written by Craig Brewer, the same man behind Hustle and Flow. Simply put, this movie is about Lazarus, I can't even say that, and Ray, two people who, and I hate to put it this way, basically have their own personal demons. Lazarus, I can't even say that.
Lazarus.
Oh my God, Lazarus.
There you go.
Lazarus discovers Ray's body dumped on the side of the road one day and decides to take her in. He later discovers that her personal demons have turned her basically into the town nymphomaniac. So aside from tending to her wounds, the religious side of Lazarus decides that he wants to take it upon himself and cure her of her demons, and decides to chain her to his radiator until basically she's cured of her trampant evil ways. Needless to say, this unusual situation, comes a great bond between the two.
Excellent.
This movie is rated R for extreme sexual situations. I should say extreme sexual situations,
Yeah.
but yeah, well, yeah.
Nudity.
Sexual situations, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, let me just start by saying that,
How to pronounce Lazarus.
yeah, with an S at the end, okay? No, I really, really liked, I loved Hustle and Flow. Let's just start right there. Hustle and Flow, fantastic movie. Craig Brewer is just, he's so down to earth. He's so focused on, well, obviously the South, but also maintaining the culture and portraying it accurately, and just using actors who sound authentic, and even people that live in that actual area. And so right out of the gate, I was really excited about this movie. The guy who wrote and directed Hustle and Flow, I'm excited. The movie is, I've heard some people say that it's misogynistic, and I can sort of see how that gets interpreted, because there's violence toward women, and there's nymphomania, obviously, and there's nudity, and I can totally understand that interpretation. But for me, I didn't think that the movie should be taken that literally.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me like, this is just more a fable, and it's about two people, like you said, who need each other at that time in their life, who don't know it, but they've been looking for that change, that bond, and they find it. And I also think that anybody who didn't really like this movie, or who thought it was misogynistic, or various other reasons, I think that they thought that maybe the film would focus more on the controversy between an older black man with a young, skinny white woman
tied
tied up in a chain. And the funny thing is that's never really explored, that controversy.
Yeah.
And I think people maybe were looking for that. We're looking for this, I don't know, that some sort of moral or something like that. But really, it just is. It's just a fable. It's about people. It's probably about, something that possibly could happen. Well, maybe not possibly. It's probably pretty implausible. But it really is just about the people and their situation, and it didn't need to be, this man curing this woman, and this woman, being forever indebted to him, and being this amazing, better person at the end of it, which I was really glad it didn't end up like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, what did you think?
No, this movie is another movie that had a very interesting trailer, and actually I saw different versions of the trailer because it was very hard to sell this movie. And there was a trailer that I saw that took a very serious tone to it. It probably had to do with the chain and everything. But then there was like a trailer that had a more comedic tone, like when she's trying to run out of the house and like the chain pulls her back. And so I had no idea what to expect from this movie. So, which was good because you kind of went into it with an open mind, and I had no idea where this movie was going to go. And I was surprised how much I liked this movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very, given the tones, the several different dark tones of this movie, it was actually a very sweet movie overall.
Absolutely.
Weirdly enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how they all have their own faults, and they all need companionship, and it's all about being there for each other. And yeah, and as you mentioned, it was never brought up, really, the whole racial tones of it too, that the black man was tied up this white woman.
Right.
No, and it never even occurred to me, quite frankly. I don't know why I never even thought about that, until later on I was watching the DVD extras and they had brought up that they were concerned about
the controversy, sure.
Potential controversy behind it, and that this movie definitely could not have been made like maybe years ago, but
right.
now maybe people just are getting used to seeing women tied up to radiators. I don't know, but I thought it was a very sweet film.
Right.
Very sweet film.
And I think that making it controversial and, reflecting that back onto itself would have hindered the overall film and what it did and what it expressed. I think about people and human nature and struggle and traumatic experience and just all of those things. And the music, again, just like Hustle and Flow. I mean, Craig Brewer really spent a lot of time injecting some of the greatest blues music. I mean, it really has such a great bluesy soundtrack, and I really, really loved that. And let's talk about the performances too.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, Christina Ricci. Oh my goodness, I
know.
I was surprised. I mean, I never disliked her like I disliked Jessica Biel or anything like that, but I was very indifferent towards her. I mean, I'd seen her movies, never really thought one way or another about her, but whoa, what a change.
I'm even gonna say I'm thinking maybe Oscar nom for her.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
You don't know about that? I mean, she really, really played. I mean, she was into this role. It blew my mind.
Look at the timing of the movie, though, too. This movie's already out on DVD. It's too old.
I don't think about timing. I try and think about this fair world
if it happens, great,
the
but it's not gonna
Academy
happen,
recognizes potential.
Yeah, no, I thought she did very well.
And Samuel L. too. Sammy.
Yeah.
He's back. I mean, he's back in the form that we all love him, being a character-driven actor, not just playing himself essentially, which is what he's been skirting by on for many years now, it seems.
Yeah.
And this was really, really a powerful role for him, and he stuck it. The accent, both of them. I mean, just so amazing.
Yeah.
I couldn't appreciate it more.
Yeah, and Justin Timberlake, while he held his own, he wasn't great, but he held his own.
Yeah.
I don't know what you thought about him. His accent was kind of wavering, and
But that's his accent, though. Did you know that? He's from
No,
that
I know that,
town.
but it was still wavering.
You're right, you're right.
It went very deep.
But that's probably part of because he's new.
Yeah.
He's new into the
But
acting
I must
game.
say, if you are a JT fan, he does have a sex scene right at the very beginning of this movie. If that would attract you to this movie and get you to watch this movie at all, I will tell you that right now. So,
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah, Jesse's excited.
Yes.
Well, you know what, though? Craig Brewer, as I was watching the commentary, he made a good point, though. Justin Timberlake, he holds his own pretty well in this movie, right? He said, people forget that Mark Wahlberg was Marky Mark. And that he is now an Oscar-nominated actor.
Oh, yeah, and I'm not saying that he will not improve.
No, I know. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that what you're saying isn't what I'm saying. But what
Yeah.
I'm saying is that he has plenty of room for growth, and
Oh, for
people
sure.
do forget, and even I sometimes forget that Mark Wahlberg was Marky Mark.
Yes.
So.
What about Donnie Wahlberg in Sixth Sense?
Yeah, he was pretty great, but what has he really done? What did that carry
But I'm just
him
saying
through?
he was so unrecognizable.
That's true. No, I mean, you're right. But we didn't
That's
actually see
another
him grow.
conversation altogether.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like I had said to you before, which I don't know why I need to reference that, but after I watched this movie, I turned around right away and watched the commentary and watched the whole movie again with the commentary, which is pretty rare that I do that. And Craig Brewer is seriously, he is such a fantastic director. He's so humble, and he's just so reserved, and he's so just excited about filmmaking and representing his hometown in the South and bringing that culture into Hollywood. And the commentary is really just fun, and he gives a lot of tips to aspiring filmmakers about how he shot things and how I mean, it's probably very common for a commentary, but you could tell that he was really rooted in this story and rooted in everything to do with it, including the area, the people. I mean, I don't know. For me, it was just really.
What I thought was
developing.
interesting was the commentary about how getting this movie made to begin with, because he was writing this movie as he was trying to get Hustle and Flow out there.
Right.
So a lot of this movie is actually based on true experiences, because he was just so sick. He made himself so sick waiting for people to pick up Hustle and Flow that translated into Justin Timberlake's character, who he had severe anxiety and would basically throw up all the time.
Right.
And those were based on his real experiences, like the scene in the car where he had to pull over because he was just making himself sick.
Right,
And
right.
So I thought that was very interesting.
Right.
He injected his own life
wrote
into
himself
this movie.
into it. Yeah, absolutely. So and the extras, there's director commentary. There are a couple different featurettes. One about the music, one about the overall production.
Yeah. And deleted scenes.
Deleted scenes.
Stuff,
Yeah. I thought that this DVD has one of the best assortment of extras that I've seen. primarily because of the content. The content is very strong. It's very engaging, and a lot of DVDs will have very unique extras that are fun and fluffy, but the content isn't really more exciting. You don't really care to learn more about what happened in the movie. And this, I mean, it just really is. The whole thing is just very powerful, very engaging, and easy to get into. So very good extras. What did you give it?
I gave it 4 reels.
4 reels?
Yes.
I concur. I also give it 4 reels. Should definitely rent it, possibly buy it. It's a great movie for your collection.
Yes, but definitely rated R for a reason.
Yes.
Just so you know.
Absolutely.
So don't let any JT fans who, your kids who may be JT fans watch this movie.
Yeah. It's rated R because of something that starts with an R and ends with an Ichi. Yeah.
It's like, where are you going with that?
It's a bad pun. I didn't really plan it, and that's kind of how my puns work out. So.
Thank you for watching FilmCrunch. Again, I'm Veronica Santiago.
And I'm Neil Estep, and we will see you next time. Right here on FilmCrunch.
I'm like already scratching my elbow at that point.
That's alright, Veronica. That's an elbow scratch. It could have been a worse scratch, to be honest.
That's true.
Look at my sad little notebook pad this time.
Aww.
Oh, you left your notes here.
I know. Where is that notebook?
Oh,
pad?
it's been published on the web. It's like,
My crappy notes that no one cares about.
okay.
The film is rated PG-13, and I don't have anything else to say after that. It's rated PG-13. Yeah, edit all that. That's good.